We'd like to present a victim impact statement by the victim's father, and then everything else will just be proper in argument.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and tell me what the state is asking for as a sentence in this case?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, the state's position is that as to counts 2 and 3, the felony murder counts, those would be vacated by operation of law based upon the jury's finding of guilt on the count 1 malice murder charge. The state would be asking for a sentence on count 1 of life without the possibility of parole. The state's position is as to count 4, the aggravated assault charge, that would merge into count 1. And the state's position is that as to count 5, cruelty to children in the first degree, that carries a penalty of 5 to 20 years, and that would not merge. So the state's request is going to be life without parole.
Does the defense have any argument about the merger and vacated counts as stated by Ms. Robert?
Yes, we do. We would be arguing that count 5 would merge by operation of law as well. It alleges the exact same conduct that is contained within count 1 that serves as the basis for the malice murder. The way the state charged it in this particular case is that it unlawfully caused the death of Hannah Nicole Driver by stabbing Hannah Nicole Driver in the neck with the knife, which is the exact wording, Judge, of count 5, by causing cruel and excessive punishment, physical, mental pain by stabbing Hannah Driver in the neck. So it is our position that based on the merger with the underlying felonies and the felony murder, that would be a case that you would not be able, that would merge and would not be able to sentence separately.
Okay. Does the defense intend to introduce any evidence in mitigation?
We're going to argue, and then Ms. Driver is also going to speak.
Okay. All right. Ms. Crawford, if you'd like to present the victim impact statement, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Can you turn on the monitors, please?
What this is.
Thank you, Your Honor. And would it be acceptable for him to deliver that from the podium?
I would prefer the witness stand,
Okay.
please.
All right. Come on.
He doesn't need to bring anything up.
She wants you to leave everything. Huh?
You need to leave it back there, sir.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. You can have
If
a
you will move the microphone,
Yes.
please.
You can have.
Is it okay to stand to present?
You have to talk into the microphone, so it'd be better to sit so we can hear you.
Please sit, sir.
Can you state your name?
Benjamin Eliav ben Michal.
Okay. And can you spell that?
B as in boy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, Y as in yellow, A as in apple, M as in Mary, I as in igloo, N as in Nancy. B as in boy, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, hyphen, M as in Mary, I as in igloo, C as in cat, H as in hotel, A as in apple, E as in Edward, I as in igloo, L as in Lucy. Eliyahu, I left out.
That's
E as
fine.
in Edward, L as in Lucy, I as in igloo, Y as in yellow, A as in apple, H as in Harry, U as in useless.
Can you tell us what your relationship was to the victim in this case.
The victim was my daughter,
Okay.
Hannah Nicole, driver Ben Michael.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Benyamin, I want you to, or Mr. Ben Michael, I want you to tell the judge about what Hannah was like in life.
645 days ago, I had the most beautiful living daughter on Monday, the 5th of December, 2020. She was dressed in a tiny, prescient little pea coat that was also colored pea, curry yellow. We were at a rest stop in McDowell, North Carolina, and I brought her toward her favorite thing, the arbors, in the middle of the rest stop where the grass was green, and the trees were tall and the roots were old and ripped up. I like to call her Naima, which means pleasantness, and she was pleasant to all she came and encountered. The most pleasant.
What was her disposition and demeanor like?
While we stood at that tree, she counted every layer of the roots. She was 13 months old. She had had a penchant for trees since she was a month and a half year old. She was sweet. There are babies that are planned. We know what the opposite of that is. But then there are babies that are planned. This child was deliberate, intentional, and the mental work of 2.5+ years prior to her 9.5 months in utero and her entrance into this world. There are a very special sister with 3 babies. And by the last one, Eliana, we came up with a term. There are forward-facing babies and not forward-facing babies. I have an older daughter who's estranged, you've heard about here, named Eiley. She was not a forward-facing baby. Eiley cared about mommy and daddy. You put her head in your armpit and you were wherever you were, and that was not Hannah Nicole. Hannah Nicole was a forward-facing baby, meaning when you carried the baby, she needed to see everybody and smile at them, everybody in the room, as if she almost had an innate nature of knowing that she had very limited time. She had to see everything, and she'd get really, she'd let you know that she needed to be turned around if you were not holding her face forward-facing babies. My sister's little Eliana was like that. I learned to hold her that way. She wanted to be taken around. She wanted to count everything. And she was looking at those roots that day in her little coat, and she had her little curls that came over her hair. And that's my last really strong, close memory of holding my daughter, playing in those roots of those trees. Her disposition was just the sweetest baby. And I'm not saying that as biased dad. I've been around a lot of children. She was different. It's like she was hosting everybody she met. We would run. I wanted to bring the little Legos. So we would run. We would play. By the time she was 13 months old, she had a real thing for little cars. We'd chase them around the room together. I'd crawl with her. Beautiful. She was really weird looking. And some babies have this and some babies don't. Between like 4 months and 7 months, they're like growing. Some things are growing too fast. Some things are growing too slow. But by 13 months old, she was so beautiful.
Did you provide photographs that you'd like to
I would like to, please. Yes, Katie.
see of Hannah?
Please.
Your Honor,
Please, the court.
I'm going to publish the photographs that.
This is me and Hannah together.
And approximately how long prior to her death was this photo?
About a few months. This is at a really beautiful, inexpensive hotel room in Clinton, Connecticut, and they have massive floor space for a hotel room like this. And we were chasing those little cars around all day, these little rev-up cars. So this would be the second week of August of 2020 when we were down with my family, as will be depicted more clearly in better photos coming. And my brother-in-law, Nathaniel Lewis, and my sister and her 3 children were all here meeting their cousin. This is in May of 2020. This is the sand, the quartz sand of Siesta Key, Sarasota. And we were spending a lot of time there. We were spending time at Nokomis, in Venice Beach, the adjacent smaller beaches, and we would come in her wagon. And you can see what she's doing. See, she was not a passive baby. She would grab the handle of the wagon and look at me like it was the most fun thing to get and smile at Daddy at Dover, just to smile into my eyes and say, look, I'm leading the wagon. She'd do it every day. She'd take hold of the handle and say, I steer this. This is my wagon. And this is in Clinton, Connecticut again. And you can see, if you want to see her nature, that's her nature. That's her nature.
Was she a happy baby?
She was excited and happy and engaging, and she'd come up to you and want to just learn everything. She'd want to touch you and smile. She'd want to get inside you and let you know that you should be happy too. Grandma threw a tennis ball a little too fast. What? Yeah, that's a picture from, you know, a little bit of the weirder period, where some of the eyes are growing, things are growing a little too fast and out of line. And I know this is the preferred thumbnail for the court, but you know, when she was looking a little silly. So that was probably back at about April of 2020. This is my parents' living room, where she would come up to this piano over here, and she had a knack, and she would start. I'd be playing piano. I've been playing piano since I was 3 years old, and I would ensconce her and encompass her in all my music, and she would come in the middle, near the middle C, and she would start doing things that actually made sense. And then she'd look at you, and she'd show you she could have a beat. My older daughter, Eiley, has an immense amount of musical talent, but she could never keep a beat, but she would come up with things. But Naima, Hannah Nicole, she could tell where the beat was. She knew where the beat of life was. She knew where to enter the room. She knew where to look at you. She knew where the camera was.
Playing with?
No, these are very little cars that you'd pull and they'd zoom around the room. This is actually a toy that I had going back to when I was a child, and it has a revolver inside, like a revolving scoop, and it goes around, and it's funny, it like collects toys into its dump truck. This is a xylophone that was my sister's over here. Little cup. She rode that little Pumobile behind her everywhere in my parents' house, and she was amazing because sometimes, as a mother, you wanted to sleep a little bit more. Chloe would go over, Kui would go over, and she would open the bedroom door and lay back down, and she'd thunder down the hallway. She'd just crawl down because we had this whole area on the second floor, safe, the dogs in the kitchen, the stairs over here blocked, and she had this living room up the hallway to the bedrooms, and you'd hear her. My mom still imagines the beauty of her grandchild thundering down the hallway, crawling thunderously. She'd come and she'd play, and my Eiley couldn't leave her for 3 minutes, even when she was 12, 11 months old. Constant attention, not Hannah Nicole. Hannah Nicole, she got in the living room with her stuff. She'd make a story. You could leave her playing there for 20 minutes. She'd make up a world. She'd put the dolls. She had things at 11 months old, 13 months old. She'd be piling cars. She'd be making a whole story and happily playing. And somebody comes, smile, go over, pet the dogs. This was her world. Everything here, Grandma made the entire house her world. That's why we were there.
Sir, the purpose of this hearing today is to give the court an understanding of sort of the impact of the actions of
Nobody can weigh the potential of the impact. When you lose Grandma and you lose Grandpa and you were not estranged, you have a life, a rich life lived. You have memories. It's painful. It's a natural process and cycle of life. When you lose a baby, when somebody entitles themselves by whatever precipitation, you can get into the moral philosophy if it is okay or not okay. Do you own your life? Can you take your life? But when you entitle yourself by whatever precipitations, by whatever precipitated your mind, without getting into the weeds, to decide you are entitled to take somebody else's life based on your opinion of whatever kind of mental illness, lack of mental illness, acting, pretending you're in mental illness, overlaying, masking, it doesn't matter. There is no wiggle room where you are entitled to take somebody else's life because of your impression or opinion. They are there to live life and discover what life is for themselves. The impact of losing Hannah Nicole, driver Ben Michael, cannot be measured. We sat around in the waves of some luxurious beach somewhere for 2.5 years, speaking tenderly to each other, dreaming our daughter. Before she was born, buying her the highest level, best things, doting on her. Nobody knows. Deanna doesn't know. Jeff doesn't know. Your Honor, you don't know. Nobody knows. She could have grown up and given humanity cures to things we don't even have diseases for yet. How can you measure the potential? How can you look at a father and say, the image I have of a 5-year-old, of a kindergartner, I lost the potential, I lost the view. The most unplanned child, to the most unprepared parents, is a travesty and a tragedy of the highest order that the parents may never be able to even articulate the pain and loss of. Now you're talking about a baby who was not just planned, but planned. A baby who was meant to put their best foot forward. A baby who was taught to have a moral and cultural consciousness that would give to humanity whatever she could possibly find as her niche and knack in the world. To measure the impact and loss privately, I'm a very hard individual. I've lived a very particular life in countries that are not here to get knowledge and find things. I'm not a good model for initial reactions. In other words, I'm extremely stoic. That doesn't mean there wasn't 13 months after, and every private moment when I screeched like a frightened 7-year-old girl, where I sat for 3 months in a van just screaming and screaming and screaming that this woman believed that she was entitled to take my daughter's life out of this world because she stopped believing in having a moral consciousness and the duty to help humanity, because she believed the girls who were with us, not that she didn't believe in polygyny, she didn't believe in the girls who were with us. She believed they were reprobate, second class. She believed she put in more energy and people did not reciprocate to her, and she quit around June 3rd, 2020, and planned Hannah's death because she planned to exit the world and take her daughter with her. She may have even abused her and felt that there was some issue on a phone call between taking the girls to Connecticut when she said, if you don't get your ass back down here to the South as quickly as you possibly can, I will throw this baby on the floor because I'm tired of her screaming and I can't get her to go to sleep the way you do, which was a beautiful segue that I love spending time with my daughter, putting her to sleep. It was like my job to put her against my heart. We spent lots of time rocking and going into sleep, and Chloe just had triggers from being raped and abused as a child, suffocated and jumped on by a drunken Eric driver who caused her to be triggered by sleep. And she doesn't even know it herself. I apologize. I'm very emotional.
I understand. For the purpose of this hearing is about Hannah and the loss of Hannah and the
And this is the impact on me.
Can you tell the court whether you have any feelings with regard to punishment or sentencing?
Nothing that actually happened to her would ever change her. I don't know that no sentence, maximum sentence, could ever get through to her in a way that she won't build a new identity, a new mask, change who she is, manipulate the next party. Chloe Alexis Driver wasn't a victim. She had the most power in our group. It was called her fits. I don't know what kind of a sentence would help her. I mean, the inclination to say death penalty, maximum. She believed she could take the life of a baby out of this world, a baby, any baby, and this beautiful baby who had this much potential to help the world, an impact that can't be weighed. Nearly unlimited potential. Can we see the others?
Photos?
Yeah. There's a whole nother email with the ones with the family.
These are the ones that I have.
She didn't send that.
All right. Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Ms. Trethewey.
I have no questions of this witness.
You can sit down.
Thank you.
Any other evidence from the state?
Just proper an argument, Your Honor. I'll reserve.
All right.